have a question for you guys. Have you ever noticed how loudly people quit League of Legends?
Bro! Please!
I'm quitting League of Legends.
It's something that has been progressively getting worse and worse and worse every year.
Is the game itself fun?
No, it's miserable.
So why do you continue to play?
For the love of the game, dude.
I think the date September 12th, 2015 is forever etched into the mind of basically every League YouTuber, because that was the day Dunkey quit League. Video Game Dunkey was one of the largest League of Legends content creators who had been making videos about the game ever since its earliest days. So toward the end of Season 5, when he uploaded a video stating that he was done with League of Legends, it was a shock to many people.
I'm done making League of Legends videos. I'm sorry to my fans that only watch my League videos, but please, go watch my other videos. I put so much work into them.
The video itself isn't anything too crazy in terms of its content. It opens with Dunkey announcing that he's quitting League, before then going on to give some detailed explanations why, many of which you can probably relate to yourself. The purpose of the video is more so an explanation rather than a rant, though. Dunkey is just explaining to his audience that he's not going to be making League content anymore and pitching viewers on reasons why they should keep on watching his stuff. In essence, you could just boil this down to being nothing more than an update. But this video, even today, is the most viewed video by a single League creator ever. And I think this is the moment that a lot of things changed, because ever since then, people have not been able to get enough content about creators who hate League.
I swear to God, if I do anything League related for 10 plus more hours, I fucking dream about this bastard game. And it's a nightmare every time.
Now, I know you might be saying to yourself, G-Bay, this is obvious. People quit League because it's a frustrating game. And you know what? That's a fair point. But have you ever thought about how weird it is there's this quitting culture surrounding the game? Most other communities don't have this. Try looking up quitting videos for Counter-Strike, or Valorant, or TFT, or even old games that might be a little bit on a decline, like Hearthstone, and you can't really find similar equivalents. There's some negative content out there, but nothing like the perpetual outrage culture with videos getting millions of views like in League. Sometimes it can be hard to find quitting announcements for these games at all. You might occasionally find YouTubers that make videos talking about quitting a game, but oftentimes those are just clickbait. I mean, those creators are still playing the game they said they were going to quit. Of course, these games can be very frustrating, and people do quit them all the time. It's just when someone decides to stop playing one, they never really broadcast that beyond a small circle of friends. People don't seem to feel a need to dissect the reasons that they're no longer playing. In fact, I can only think of one example of a community that complained very loudly about the decline of their game, but we're going to save that for later. In League of Legends, by comparison, there is a permanent negative discussion always going on. Plenty of YouTubers have followed in Dunkey's footsteps, making their own quitting announcements. A lot of people have started making videos about the death of League of Legends, trying to predict it, present company not excluded. But who can blame them? I mean, these videos get ridiculous viewership. What fascinates me so much about these videos and their audience, though, is that I don't know if people are actually ready to give up on League. Whenever a new YouTuber makes a video announcing they're quitting League, people will flock to that video, encouraging them in the comments and boosting the viewership, even though they won't actually go on to watch the new content the creator makes after leaving League. Something about this discussion just feels weird. There's a lot of frustrating video games out there. Very few get people riled up like this.
We're 3 for 3 games today, right? I had a Rager on my team, then there was a Rager on the enemy team, and now we have another Rager on my team. Let's see what we get this game. What do you think? Is it going to be a Rager on my team or the enemy team this time? It's like, this is ridiculous, dude.
Normally, when a person quits a league, they'll be able to zero in really quickly on the specific reasons they decided to stop playing the game. Like maybe the balance was too frustrating, or the community was too toxic, or Riot did something they didn't like, which are all perfectly valid reasons to decide to stop playing, but that doesn't really answer the question of why people announce their departures. Because choosing to stop playing the game and announcing your departure are two totally different things. I think everybody knows why someone would want to stop playing League, but I don't know if we've ever answered the question of why people are so loud about it, although I have a hypothesis. I think the reason people publicize their frustration with the game is because they don't have anywhere else to go. If you look at all the most popular online PvP games today, you'll probably notice that almost every title shares two distinct qualities. Firstly, every one of the big genres originally started as a mod. Counter-Strike originally started as a Half-Life mod, Team Fortress was a Quake mod, Battle Royale games go through a a number of community creations, but all trace their lineage back to the Arma 2 mod, DayZ. League of Legends, of course, might have the richest history of all these, as the MOBA genre traces its history all the way back to the StarCraft Brood War mod, Eon of Strife, which then went through 10 years of community development before anyone even had the idea to try and create a commercial release, the first of which being League of Legends. But there's a second quality almost all popular PvP games today share. They're all shooters. Counter-Strike and other tactical shooters are FPS games. Team Fortress and other class-based shooters are more of the same. Battle Royale games have a little more variety, but almost all the popular ones still standing are either first or third-person shooters. The only non-shooter games with a big player base today are normally turn-based strategy games like card games or auto-battlers. League of Legends and the MOBA genre is the odd man out that provides something none of these other titles do.
How tiny he is. Wait, SR.
Top-down strategy games aren't necessarily inherently better or worse than something else like a shooter, but they are fundamentally different, and that difference in perspective leads to a difference in gameplay. Rather than be focused on something like twitchy, adrenaline-pumping reactive gameplay, MOBAs are much more varied in pace. Players need to think really critically about certain decisions that have to be made in areas like champion select, item builds, and when and where to take objectives, which can be so important they can decide a game on their own. Even so, there's still is plenty of opportunity for technically proficient players to show off their talents through outplaying opponents on high skill cap champions, in 1v1 scenarios, or team fights. I know it's really weird that I'm explaining these very basic concepts in League of Legends as if we all haven't already sunk hundreds of thousands of hours into this game, but in the sea of negativity in the community, it can be easy to forget what does make League special. The real thing that got me hooked on League of Legends and the MOBA genre as a whole is how this game provides players with an unparalleled level of freedom. Like in League of Legends, there's over 150 different champions with 5 distinct roles, multiple build paths for each character that can normally also be played in multiple roles. Have you ever thought about how insane that is? In other titles, a player might be able to identify themselves as particularly good with one kind of weapon, or maybe a character or two and a few dozen on a roster, but there isn't a huge difference in how two players go about playing a competitive match, generally speaking. In League of Legends, by comparison, the simple act of choosing your main role and learning a half dozen champions instantly makes you unique. I think that feeling of identity is a huge part of what makes League of Legends so special, why you feel so strongly about playing a specific champion or role, and why you feel legit animosity towards other champions and the people who choose to main them. Everybody has to naturally specialize in certain areas of the game, and whatever you particularly feel drawn to becomes a part of your identity in a really cool way. And I think that's what leads into everything else. The endless amount of strategy and characters means you get to make your own fun. Play this game however you want. You start off the process by simply discovering as much as you can, figuring out goofy strategies that you can play with your friends. You see creative ideas like this work to win games, both in your casual matches as well as competitive settings. Eventually you start to develop some technical skill, and it feels so good to pull off impressive plays in each match, finally putting everything together. So you challenge yourself more and more, learning new characters and roles, maybe trying out the ranked ladder or watching the competitive esports scene. And before long, 10 years of your life have gone by, because this game is so deep and provides such a different experience from everything else, you could never pull yourself away. You just had so much fun learning. I don't know. That's what I liked about League when I played it. Maybe you feel different, but I'd wager if you've sunk hundreds of hours into this game, you probably felt there was an experience here you couldn't get anywhere else. That's where I think we can find the answer to why the League community is so weirdly antagonistic toward their own game. League is a game that's very fun in a lot of ways, but it does have its issues. It was birthed by mid-2000s internet forum culture, and it has all the flaws that come along with that. But if you're so frustrated with the game's flaws that you feel like you want to quit, you don't really have anywhere else to go. I mean, you can go and try and play a different MOBA game if you want, but they all have the same sort of flaws, which really just leaves you with two choices. You can choose to quit, go ahead and move on for good, reserving yourself to never really having this specific kind of fun again, choosing to go play shooters or something. Or you can choose to complain. Make your frustrations known, either loud enough that Riot will hear you and fix the problems that you have with League, or maybe loud enough that some other community will hear you and give you a new kind of genre that will scratch that MOBA itch. Because as of right now, there really isn't anything else like League. I mentioned before, there actually was one game that had the same environment League has today, where players complained very loudly about how frustrated they were at the decline of their genre, and as luck would have it, that game was the title that League replaced. Real-time strategy games, or RTSs, were the genre before MOBAs that dominated the PC market. They had similar gameplay in that they were top-down strategy games that gave their players incredible levels of choice and customizability, allowing individuals to express themselves through their playstyle. This freedom of choice spawned a huge casual fanbase who loved inventing their own strategies or their own modes of play, creating custom games and scenarios to share with friends. The large casual player base could then support a huge competitive esports scene on top of it, with the deep gameplay providing plenty of room for developing a complex meta. All of which are reasons that RTS games, and StarCraft Brood War in particular, dominated PC gaming for over 10 years. But when StarCraft 2 released in 2010 as the much-hyped sequel to Brood War, a lot of people were disappointed. The game wasn't quite as fun on a casual level, especially during the first expansion rollout, which was also a bit of a weird way to release a game, so less casual fans hopped on to play, which meant less viewers for competitive events, creating an unstable esports environment. This set things on a downward spiral, and soon StarCraft fans were boisterously complaining about what they thought was the inevitable death of their game. The peak of this discussion occurred when pro player Destiny made a long, detailed post on everything going wrong in the scene to the StarCraft subreddit, specifically saying the only person who could fix things was the game's developer, Blizzard Entertainment. But Blizzard didn't do much. They left the community out to dry, and StarCraft declined. Of course, it's still around today, and you can play it yourself, but RTS games are nowhere near as popular as they once were. You know, reading this Destiny post is eerily similar to hearing one of the many complaints people make about League of Legends today, except there's one key difference. Destiny's post was made in 2012, when there was a competitor to the RTS genre. I'm pretty confident this feeling that there's no other alternative is the reason people are so frustrated with League of Legends today, although to be honest, I could be totally wrong. I haven't played the game in over 2.5 years, so it's entirely possible that I have no idea what I'm talking about. Maybe the gameplay is worse, or the balance is way crazier, or Riot is making worse decisions, or the items are more overpowered. I guess the only way for me to be absolutely certain is to come back and play another game.